I come from a family of storytellers. Some of my earliest memories involve sitting at our kitchen table, listening to my parents and relatives tell stories, some of them hilarious, others tragic, about my family's past. These tales were filled with unforgettable characters and fantastic situations, and I know them all as well as I know my own name. But as much as I loved hearing these stories, I've always wanted to spin tales of my own. And so I wrote The Tale of Halcyon Crane, a novel about a woman who becomes entranced by stories of a past she never knew existed. You can see it's exactly the opposite of my own background. I grew up hearing everything about my family, but Halcyon knows nothing about her past. It isn't until she's in her 30s that Halcyon learns of her childhood abduction and sets out to find some answers. What happened all those years ago? Who was her mother? Who were her ancestors? And most importantly, who was she? I wanted to include an element of magical realism in the story because I love the notion that something otherworldly can be lurking right around the corner, waiting for you on any given Monday. That the world is filled with things we don't understand and many of us can't see, and that fairy tales, Grimm's especially, could really have happened. I love the goosebumps and tingles I get from shows like Medium and The Ghost Whisperer and books like The Ghost Orchid by Carol Goodman. And I wanted to write a story that would give people the same type of deliciously haunting, eerie feeling. Now, I decided to set the story on Mackinac Island in the Great Lakes because for those of us who live in this region, the Great Lakes hold a magic and mystery unlike any place else. I live on Lake Superior, and many people think it's actually a living thing, with moods ranging from benevolent to murderous. I fictionalized Mackinac's name, calling it Grand Manitou Island instead, so I could be free when writing about the specific places, happenings, and people there. But readers who've been to Mackinac will recognize it right away. When you go there, you really feel like you've traveled back in time. I think it has to do with the fact that there's no motorized traffic on the island, and everyone gets around by horse and carriage. It's a place filled with beautiful Victorian homes, grand hotels, great restaurants, wine bars, and a very creepy old cemetery. It seems to me that the whole island is teeming with spirits. If any place in the world is haunted, it's Mackinac Island. What better place for a woman to go looking for the ghosts of her past? Another reason I set the story on the Great Lakes was because I wanted to work in a real-life tragedy that occurred there, the worst storm in the history of the region, which happened in November of 1913. I was doing some research for a magazine article I was writing when I came upon old newspaper accounts of this storm. They called it the Frozen Hurricane, and it destroyed harbors, piers, and shorelines, demolishing buildings, tearing up streets, dumping feet of snow on land, and, most horrifyingly, sending nearly every ship on the Great Lakes that day to the bottom, all hands aboard. One of the newspaper accounts told of drowned sailors, frozen together, floating out of the fog and into the shore of Lake Huron. When I read that, I knew I had to include it somehow in my story. I am beyond thrilled that Holt Paperbacks is publishing my novel next year. Thank you so much for supporting it. And I hope the story of a woman searching for her family's dark history on an island filled with ghosts of the past haunts and moves you.